Hey guys, welcome back. So in this video we're going to look at periods, durations, and formatting. So the first thing we're going to look at is something called a period. A period is a length of time that is represented in days, months, or years between two dates. So let's call this period, we can just call it period, and it'll be defined as period dot between, right? So what this is going to do is it's going to take in two dates, and let's provide the local. So what happens if we try this? If we try to put in two local date times, we're going to get a compiler error because what it wants is it wants two local dates. We want two local dates because a period, remember, it only gives you the duration of time in days, months, or weeks, or sorry, in like years. So what we can do is we can just convert each of these guys into local dates. And now notice that because we're passing in the same local date, for both parameters, we should get something like 0 for the period duration. So if we were to do period dot get days, if we were to do that, if we were to print this out, let's see here, we would get 0 because we're passing in the same date twice. But suppose we did this. Suppose we did local date time, and now we convert it to a local date, and then we add. So let's just add 10 days. So that'll be the second date that we pass in. And now if we try this, we'll get 10, just as we would expect. Now we can also find lengths of time, differences in time, in terms of like minutes, hours, and seconds by using the duration class. So this duration class, it's defined similarly. It's just duration dot between. And so in this case, we are just going to put into local times. So we can just do local date time. So if we try this again, what's going to happen? Well, this time it's going to work because you can actually calculate the minutes and seconds between maybe like 2 days that are really far off. So if this was, for example, May 5th, and this was May 6th, but this was May 5th at 5 p.m., and this was May 6th at 10 p.m., it still makes sense to calculate the number of minutes or the number of hours between those two times. So now we can do system.out.println, and then we can do duration dot, let's see here, so we can get nano, we can get seconds, let's see here, what else can we get? Let's just use this get right here, and then we're just going to use our chrono units before, and let's grab the number of hours in between. So we should see 0 here. Let's see here, so this is unsupported. Let's see here, so I guess so just looking at the source code, we can tell that the duration class, we can only use these two types of units. Recall from our lecture about exceptions, when we throw an exception, we're going to get a crash like this, right? And so the documentation up here says that we can get the value of the requested unit, but we can only grab that value for two types of units, in this case seconds and nanoseconds. So as to why they have this method right here, I'm not quite sure, because I mean they already just have this get nano and get seconds function, but for now we're just going to use this get seconds function, and we'll get 0 as expected. So now let's do some stuff. Let's convert this to let's see here. Let's see here, we can add maybe 2 hours. If we add 2 hours, then we should see 7,200 seconds over here, and that's as expected. We get 7,200 because we're finding the difference between the same time plus 2 hours, which is 3,600 seconds plus each hour. 3,600 times 2 is equal to 7,200. So the difference between these two guys is 7,200 seconds, and that's all we're printing out right here. All right. Now let's look at formatting. So what we can do is we can convert each date into a string, basically. And so, this is useful when you want to display information to a user. So to do this, you can just use datetime. I mean, in this case, we're going to use the local datetime object, and we're going to use the format method. Next, we're going to use this date time formatter class, and it has a bunch of static fields and methods. If we do maybe like this ISO datetime, this is a standardized format that we can use to easily convert any dates that we have into this ISO format. So let's see here. So formatted date time is equal to that, and then what we'll do is we'll just do system.out.println formatted datetime. And this is the format we're familiar with, where we have the year, and then the month, and then the day, and then we have this delimiter T that separates the left-hand side from the right-hand side, such that the right-hand side contains the hour and minute. And we can experiment around. There are a bunch of other fields we can look at. We can just do maybe ISO time, and we can try this guy, and in this case we're just going to get the hours and minutes. Now there's one final one that's very useful, and that's if we want to use a custom format. So when we want to use a custom format, we use this of pattern method. Now when we do this, we need to specify a pattern, right? Well, it turns out that we can do stuff like this, where we can specify that, okay, the first 2 digits of my string, they should be, I think M corresponds to minutes, but let me double check this. We have, Oracle provides this nice list of what each letter in a pattern does. In this case, we can see that the capital M, it specifies the month in a year. So if we do, let's see here, does it give? Okay, so if we do this, MM, then what this says is to put the month into 2 digits, right? So the month could be maybe like, I don't know, like August, or sorry, January. So January would be represented as 0, 1, and then you would have December, and that would be represented as 1, 2. If we had a single M right here, then January would just be represented as 1, and then December would still be represented as 12. We just wouldn't have that leading 0 when we were working with January. So let's just test this out really quickly in case we just want to format it or grab the month like this. We could print it out, and we would get 0, 6. Now let's remove the first M, and we just get 6. Okay, so let's say that we just want it formatted with no leading 0. So we want to put maybe month. So we can say, okay, that's going to be month. And then what we can do is we could put a comma in there, and let's put in a year now. So to do a year, let's look at the format table right here, and we see that year is lowercase y. So if we want to put all 4 letters inside of a year, we can do it like this. If we want maybe it represented via its last 2 letters, we can do it like with just 2 y's. But let's do it like this, where we have all 4 numbers inside of the year. And if we run this, it'll format it correctly, where we have the month over here and then the year over here. And notice that it even includes the comma and space. Okay, so that's going to be month, year, and we can put let's see here, we can put days. So days are, we want days in month, days of the month, right? So we might want like April 30th. So to get the 30th, we use the lowercase d. So now we're going to do that. So in this case, here's the month, here's the year, and then here is the day. But I mean, this isn't a very accurate format. Most of the time we might have something like, so we would want the month, and then we would have a backslash. Then we would want the day, and then so we would have 1 of these D's, and then we would want the year. So now we would do 4 of these Y's, and now we print it out, and it looks like we would expect. And let's just put in the leading zeros just to further emphasize that point. If we put in another M, then we're basically reserving 2 spaces inside of the string, and if we don't have any content in the first space, we just put a 0 in there. Otherwise, if we're working with like a month like December, we're going to fill it up with a number like 12. Okay, so that wraps up formatting and working with dates and times using the new Java 8 library. I'll see you guys in the next video.